Making it easy to see your data all at once and all clearly in a spreadsheet is super useful when you're trying to read or find data in your spreadsheet. Now, by default, text in a cell will never be more than one line of text. And if there's more text than the width of the column, it's going to bleed out into the subsequent columns rather than automatically go to a new line like it would in other programs like Word or Outlook. That is, unless there's data in that column next to it, in which case the text is now just going to get cut off and seem to disappear behind the other columns, completely unreadable. However, there are three solutions to this problem, and we're going to explore them in this lecture. One is resizing your column to fit the data. Another is using text wrapping to increase the height of the row to get the text to go on to new lines. And the third is shrinking the font size just so to get the text to fit in the allotted space. And in this lesson, I'm going to show you when, why, and how to most effectively use each of these options to be able to better read your data in Excel. Let's start with resizing your columns. Now, you can manually resize a column by hovering over the divide between two columns along the column label area at the top of the page. And with a click and drag, you can change the width of whatever column is to the left of your cursor. But there's a much better way to do this with the Autofit. Auto-fitting columns makes them exactly as wide as they need to be, but no wider. So if I use that same spot, the dividing area between two columns, and I put my mouse there, but instead of a click and drag, I'm going to double click. What that does is automatically resizes the column to the left so it's just big enough to fit all the data in that column. Note that this works to both increase and decrease the width of your column. So I can shrink that ID column also with a double click to make it just as wide as it needs to be. And you don't have to do this one at a time either. In fact, if you select multiple columns or even the entire sheet, I'm going to click in the upper left-hand corner, which selects the whole sheet. Now, a double click between any two columns will auto-fit all the columns at once. That's option one, and it's usually the right choice, except when you sometimes have whole paragraphs of information or really long sentences, in which case a super wide column of one row just won't do. And in those cases, you want to use the wrap text option. What this does is allows the text in a cell to wrap to multiple lines and auto-resizes the row height to be just big enough to fit all of that data. Note, however, that the width of the column is going to still remain constant. Also, when you first apply the wrap text, it's going to auto-fit the row height, but it's not going to adjust after the fact. So if you do the auto-fit on this column and then you manually resize your column to whatever size you feel like it makes sense, you'll actually want to use the auto-fit again on those rows. So we'll select the entire sheet from the upper left and double-clicking between any row labels. It's easy as that. One final choice that you might want to use is for those rare times when you don't necessarily want to change the width of the column or the height of the row, you just want the data to fit in the current cell. For example, this may make sense when, say, you're printing your data and you only have a few cells that contain longer than average text strings, but you don't want to make the whole column bigger to accommodate those cells. Basically, if you would prefer a different font size to different row heights, or need the column width or the rows to stay how they are, you're going to want to use the Shrink to Fit format option. You'll find the Shrink to Fit option in the Format window. So all you have to do is select either the individual cells or an entire column, and then with a right-click Format Cells or the keyboard shortcut Control-1, and it's Command-1 on a Mac, under the Alignment tab, you'll see an option to Shrink to Fit. And if you check that box, this is going to make any text that doesn't fit in the cell size currently shrink its font until it just fits. And one really cool thing about this format setting is that it's going to change the font size as the column width changes. Watch as I shrink or expand the column now. Kind of neat, huh? So there you have it. 3 different ways to format your spreadsheet so it's easier to read. I use these all the time just to make it more user-friendly to deal with my spreadsheet. I'd also say that the order we covered it in is the order I would consider when deciding which ones to use. You'll start with the Autofit. If a column is too big, you'll then do the wrap text, and if you must, you'll use the shrink to fit. The people reading your sheets will thank you for the effort. See you next time.